Hello and welcome to another episode of the DTF podcast here on the Field of 68 Media Network. I'm thrilled to be joined by my partners in crime here, Terrence Oglesby and John Fanta. T.O. Made it home from calling the Clemson-Georgia Tech game last night, where he had somebody on national television reach over and palm his head like it was a basketball. And we also have Fanta, who is coming live from the Big am I allowed to say this? The Big East offices? You're filming a promo for something, coming off of another Big East game last night. So Fanta is back in his home stomping grounds. We got a lot to get to, guys. We got to talk about everything that went crazy in the SEC last night. Finn, I do want to pick your brain on that Georgetown St. John's game last night, because that was a fun game. You had a great call on a dunk. But T.O., we got to start with you, man. How does it feel to kind of go slightly viral, at least in our circles, for having somebody palm your head on national television?
Like a basketball. And he did it after last game when we weren't on live TV. And then we come back yesterday, and Tanner Phipps, who produced the game, he's like, I saved it just in case. Just in case. And he did. And Duncan Powell, who people don't know, he refers to himself as the Shag Man. Completely bald everywhere, headband, hair underneath the headband in the back. It's an elite look. Makes me happy. I'm trying to make it a fashion statement so I can get it to come back. So there is hope for guys like me. But no, he came up, palmed my head. We showed it, and on live television. So interesting enough. But hey, guys, I'm telling you, I don't know what I'm missing. I think Clemson's still very good. I feel like I watched them play last night. They play the majority of the game with only upperclassmen. Chase Hunter is playing as well as anybody. He is a lock first-team All-ACC guy at this point. And the league still has talent. It hasn't performed well, but it still has a lot of individual talent. And Chase Hunter is playing as good as anybody. Him, Chucky Hepburn, Cooper Flagg, Maxime Renault, those four guys are locks. After those four guys, a lot's up for debate, but those four guys in the ACC, what Clemson was able to do defensively against Georgia Tech, who's shorthanded, that's a given. But I'm telling you, that Clemson team, they have a win over Kentucky, and everybody has them projected as a 10 seed below North Carolina. For the life of me, I can't understand that. For the life of me. Maybe I'm just watching something wrong.
You've opened the door from here, so I want to ask you this. I think we all agree, and correct me if I'm wrong, T.O., Fanta, either one of you, Duke is the best team in the ACC.
Yes.
Once you get past Duke,
maybe the country.
Louisville. Yeah, they might be in the country. There's Louisville, there's Clemson, there's North Carolina. I don't know if you have anyone else in that tier. I'm not sure. I think I have Pitt slightly below them. But who is the second best team in the ACC? You've seen Louisville recently. You've now seen Clemson recently. You know North Carolina as well as anybody, T.O. And Fans, I want your take on this too.
It's between Clemson and Louisville, and I thought Clemson didn't play as bad as what it looked like whenever they went up to Louisville and lost by 10. There was a 15-0 run at the end of the first half that just crushed Clemson. I think that's a lot closer than people realize. Right now, if I had to pick between the two, I would pick Louisville because of the head-to-head and how well Louisville's playing. Clemson's right there. After that, I'm going Pitt, probably North Carolina. After that, I guess Wake Forest might be a distant 6, but it's a top 5 in that league for sure.
Yeah. Fanta, go ahead.
Well, I think it is Clemson or Louisville. And I would actually, right now, I'd lean Louisville from a perspective of I think that, between Chucky Hepburn and Javon Hadley and the options that they have, I like the way that they keep coming on. I think that Clemson is a good team that I would put third in a tournament team, and they shouldn't be a 10 or lower. I know Joe Lunardi has them 9 right now on the 9 line. I think, when you look at them, they have one quad 1 win, and that's where the league's hurting itself from a seeding perspective. So I think Clemson could get a 6 or a 7 seed, if things continue to go right. But I do think it's a testament to what we said when Pat Kelsey took the Louisville job. And I say Louisville because Louisville recently beat Clemson. They beat Clemson by 10 points. And in that game, Hadley was absolutely outstanding. I mean, Javon Hadley, he had 32 points in that game. And when you look at his season collectively, fellas, I think what he's doing right now is really special. He's always scoring in double figures for them, and he's picking up his production, and he's shooting over 50% from the floor. I really like the 6'6" wing, and I think that Louisville could just beat you in different ways. Different guys can get hot. Hepburn can get going for them. Terrence Edwards, I think he's got some better shooting performances. And look at what Rain Smith did over the weekend. Rain Smith caught fire. So it's like, think about this, Rob. Louisville's shorthanded, and they're still deep. I think that's what's impressive about them and the way. But that's Pat Kelsey. It's the way that he conducted himself.
It's almost like what T.O. and I saw in the Bahamas. It's almost like we might have been right, T.O. It's almost like it didn't matter that a 13-year-old played 28 seconds in that game, or there was a 38-year-old on one of those teams. It's almost like we know ball.
Right.
It's almost like I'm taking victory laps. I don't care what happens. I'm taking victory laps.
Somebody called Jeff.
Please.
Well, you look at what they did at Syracuse last night, and they get 5 in double figures, and they hit 12 threes. I mean, they're playing really good basketball. But I'm with Terrence. I like. What are you looking at, Terrence?
Did you guys see the After Dark chat?
Oh boy.
No, what happened?
Oh boy.
Luke Goody is coming out blazing.
Yeah, he is coming out blazing. I just see this. Calling Dan Dockett.
So Luke Goody tweeted he said the joke of the town, Dan Dockett's running his mouth again, 2 points per game in college and acts like he has the answers to everything. There's a reason he's running a radio show and not a coach somewhere. Woo! Luke Goody coming out blazing. Guys, we do have to talk about Indiana here, and we are going to get to them. But we have some serious stuff that we have to talk about before we get there. The people in the chat have been wondering if at the end of last week's episode, there was a little bit of a tiff between you guys, between T.O. and Fanta. The internet believes that you guys are beefing, and part of the reason why we were late today, we were supposed to go at 12:30, we're supposed to go at 1. The rumor is that you guys were getting in some kind of fight, some kind of argument. Do you want to clear the air here? Like, we changed sides. T.O.'s on the different side now. Is that what kind of settled this this dispute between the two of you? Like, is there something tearing apart DTF at the seams?
I can't stand his face. I can't stand his face at all. I love John Fanta. I think we've talked 3 times since Friday on the phone. We're good. My main man. They switched sides on us, though. That was more Rob and more my head positioning because I have a lopsided head, so had to move me on that side of the angle. Yeah.
What were we even arguing over?
I don't remember.
Nobody
I don't even remember. I mean, I don't even. We have discussions all the time, but no, I don't think.
No.
Look, I normally agree with T.O. If I disagree with anyone, it's Rob. Rob, Rob never gets a compliment at all. Like in our group chats on this network, I don't know if Rob's gotten a compliment. I mean, he gets told he can't throw a football. He gets called out for any analysis he has. I feel bad for Rob sometimes. I have nothing against Terrence Oglesby. I think, I'm in agreement with his Clemson Tigers. I think Clemson's better than, here's the thing about the last thought I have is, and I'm not just saying this because T.O. called the Clemson game last night and went there, but here's what I know. Here's what I do know. That if Clemson's an 8 or a 9 seed, man, did the 1 seed in that region get screwed.
Heck yeah. Heck yeah. Hey, to Indiana, because Luke Goody coming out blazing.
Oh, you're going there. You're going there.
I'm got to.
All right. So,
tee up.
So what happened last night for the people that have apparently been sleeping under a log? Indiana got absolutely humiliated in their own building, and I don't think there's any other way to phrase it. Right? They were down by as many as 30 points in the first half. I think at one point it was 52-22. The effort on that end of the floor was completely non-existent. Like, we've all seen that one viral clip of like the fast break that led to like a defensive possession where it was clear that no one in Indiana actually gave a damn about trying to get a stop. That was coming off of a 25-point loss to Iowa 3 days beforehand. And it's probably the third time that we've seen this level of just kind of, we're just going to roll over and die from the Hoosiers. I will never forget how bad they looked against Louisville in the first round of the Battle for Atlantis. We've seen situations where Umar Ballo has been suspended after being photographed at a bar the night before a game. There were players that were allegedly out at the
Kilroy's,
blackjack tables.
Kilroy's, I'm telling you, Kilroy's has taken better men down. I could guarantee it.
Yeah, it's just there is a lot going on there. They spent $5 million in NIL to be able to get this is what they've done against top 50 KenPom opponents. Number 50 Penn State they beat. Once you get past that, there's a 28-point loss to Louisville. There's a 16-point loss to Gonzaga. There's a 17-point loss to Nebraska. There's a 25-point loss to Iowa. There's a 25-point loss to Illinois. It feels very, very strange to me to look at a team and look at a coach that's been to 2 NCAA tournaments in 3 years and is sitting here with a 13-5 record and say, I wonder if he's going to make it through the year. They were chanting "Fire Woodson" in Assembly Hall. There were boos coming down in there like I've never heard in Assembly Hall before. Fant, I'll go to you first. T.O., I want your take on this as well. Like, what is the answer? Like, where do you go? What do you do? How do you fix this? And is it even fixable?
It's not fixable because when effort isn't getting placed, that's the end. Like, when you are not asserting yourself and you're not using effort, that is squarely on the head coach and squarely on the program. Indiana fans are passionate and smart. They know what basketball looks like and what it's supposed to look like. And what that was last night was a disservice and a shame and an embarrassment to the history of IU basketball. Those fans pay money to sit in the stands, and some of them are now funding the roster. They're allowed to do what they want when your team loses by 25 points at home to Illinois. Illinois is a very good team. Illinois blew out Oregon in Eugene. Illinois won that game at Oregon. Oregon's fight, though, you never were questioning their effort. They just got their butts kicked. What happened last night is the latest case of a team that's not prepared and has some people that really don't care, that just want to make their paycheck. Where it's easy right now in college basketball to do that. It's probably the easiest thing to do if you're a marquee name. So the state of this program is embarrassing. And this is a loaded situation because Mike Woodson is one of their own. So some people are going to have to put the big boy pants on and acknowledge the fact that this isn't working and that the end is pretty much inevitable. Last night, for me, signified the end. There's still time left in the season, and maybe they provide a moment here or there. But in a game that you really needed, you no-showed. And there are multiple clips from that game where I am beyond befuddled at the lack of effort from some players who are so much better than that. You might get paid today, but the way that some guys played for them last night, this is coaching aside. One, have some pride for yourself. Two, are you not trying to get paid in future years? You're losing money when you play that way.
T.O., real quick before you go, I would agree that this feels like the beginning of the end. I do think there's still time for Woodson to turn it around. I don't believe that he will because this is what their schedule is coming up. At Ohio State, at Northwestern, Maryland at home, at Purdue, at Wisconsin, Michigan at home, at Michigan State, and then UCLA at home and Purdue at home. Good luck. Because I think if you get 2 wins out of that next run of 9 games, then you're probably doing pretty well if you're Indiana right now at this point.
Yeah, tough situation all the way around. I think this is a long time coming, and it kind of goes back to, and I hate to agree with Jeff, but some of these guys that have been NBA coaches and are NBA guys, they don't realize that you're managing everything, and it is a different level. You aren't just coach, and I'm speaking from experience here. You're not just coach. You're babysitter. You're part-time tutor. You're making sure guys don't get in trouble away from the floor. I mean, there's a lot going on, and you can't just trust that the guy's going to show up and do his job. It's not where it's at. These guys are getting paid. Sure, they're still very young men. They're young people, and they're still figuring their way out through this world. So, like, it's tough. The thing that bothers me and always bothers me is when you're getting shit kicked by 30 points, don't start a fight then. When
Well
you're
said.
getting crushed, don't start a fight when you're down 30. Because
Well said.
where was that fight in the first 30 minutes of the game?
Right.
Right? Like the fight should have been there the whole time. To me, that's where it gets really embarrassing for the players. If you're not gonna show up, all well and good. Don't double down and be like, yeah, I'm a tough guy. No, you're not a tough guy. You've been getting your ass handed to you royally by a bunch of 18 and 19-year-old young guys, despite that $5 million in NIL. And if you guys remember, I said Indiana didn't have NIL last year. I was really wrong. I was wrong. They paid a lot of money for this roster. They still can't put it together. So I don't know if it's Bloomington. I don't know what's going on, but this is tough stuff. And it is the beginning of the end. I thought the beginning of the end was in the Bahamas, to be honest with you. After they no-showed down there, I thought that was kind of the thing, like, oh no, this isn't going to go well. People are going to get impatient, and I'm not sure where you go. Now I think we're smack in the middle of it, and it's going to get uglier before it gets pretty.
Yeah, I think I don't want this to sound like I'm coming out and defending Woodson, because at a certain point, if you can't get your players ready to play, that is on you. That's part of the job of being a coach, is to make sure that you guys are ready to play. I also think that Umar Balo's got to take a long look in the mirror, man. And he's going to take a lot of heat for this, and he deserves a lot of heat for this because of the way that last night played out. But you're going out to bars the night before games, man. Like, you are showing up not ready to play and getting suspended for reasons involving
and then laughing on the bench.
Then laughing on the bench. You're getting in fights there. The level of effort that you're playing with is frankly embarrassing and in my mind unacceptable. Like, at a certain point, he's got to kind of look at himself in the mirror too. Like, Woodson's got a lot of blame, and it's probably going to end up costing him his job. But Umar Balo's got to take a long look in the mirror and find out and figure out if he wants to be a basketball player or if he wants to be a guy that makes a lot of money and lives in a college town. Because if he's got that's just, I think it was 1.2 is what it was reported that he was making. That seems like it might have been a little bit inflated, but you take taxes away, it's probably half of that. Like, if you're talking $500,000, that's great for when you're in college. That ain't life-changing money, right? That's a nice start. You might be able to buy your first house with that, right? But you still got to work for 60 years before you're going to be able to retire. And you want to, and if he does this, like, he ain't working as a basketball athlete and a basketball player. What I would also say is that there's, and I'll let you go in 1 second, Fanta, but I would also say, we talked with Penny Hardaway here on the Field of 68 on After Dark. I want to say it was about a week and a half ago. And one of the things that he talked about is it took him a while to understand what it meant to be a college basketball coach. And we're talking like 3, 4, 5 years to understand that, like, the culture was more important than just amassing talent. Like, when you get to the NBA, it's very much about getting as many quality pieces as you can, because everyone's showing up and ready to do your job, because you are a professional and you are a grown man, and you understand you got mortgages, you got kids to pay for, you got college educations you're gonna have to worry about, you got all that stuff, right?
And them dudes are going out to the bars too, but like,
yeah,
they have the ability to show up. Like,
yeah. Just as an aside, the thing that Henson told us is that when he would go out, he'd be out till like 4 a.m. They wake up, they go to shoot around at 9 a.m., whatever it was. He'd come home, he'd sleep off the hangover, right? You 4, 5, 6 hours, take a nap, you wake up at 4 o'clock, you drink your espresso, and you head over to the building and get ready to play. So that was and Henson did pretty well for himself as an NBA player. I think that Woodson has not figured that part of it out, right? Culture is just as important as anything else, and developing a group of players that want to buy in is just as important as anything else. And the example that I'll give you guys is from last night. Look at what Dennis Gates is doing with Missouri, right? He had a team last year that didn't really work. He went 0-18 in the SEC. There were people like, I don't think he's the right guy for the job, and then builds a roster where the pieces fit, the players fit, and most importantly, they give a shit about whether or not Missouri basketball is going to win. And you could see it last night. They go on the road and they beat a top 5 team in America. That does not exist with this Indiana team. And if you can't develop culture, you cannot be a college basketball court, especially if you are a guy at a place like Indiana, where the culture and the pedigree and the pageantry, it's Indiana, man. Indiana, you got to make sure that you got guys that understand that it is Indiana basketball.
I don't think Indiana has had the cachet like that in a long time.
But they what I'm saying is they should. Like, if
they got
you
the money
can't,
too.
You got the money,
doesn't
you
buy
got the
everything.
fan base, you got the home court. You're Indiana, and they haven't
Yeah.
been like what we think Indiana should be in a while, but it's still India. They're still, you still have an entire state that loves that basketball program the same way that the entire state of Kentucky loves that basketball program. Look at what Kentucky's doing now that they brought in Mark Pope. Something's got to happen similar with Indiana. I don't know what it is.
Hold on now. Hold
Go ahead.
on. Because that's exactly the point. Your next hire is going to be met with some criticism. You have to be willing to live with that as an athletic director. If you make the right hire, it will be partially criticized. Why? Because if you make the right hire, you're going to pick a guy who probably is on the ascent, hasn't maxed out. How's John Calipari doing at Arkansas? Right?
First time he's been 0-4 in conference play since 1988-89. So not
terrible.
Well. I was born in 88.
The thing is, you may have to go with the non-sexy person for the betterment of your overall program. Did the casual person know who the heck TJ Otzelberger was when he took the Iowa State job? Look what he's doing right now. He's as good as any coach in college basketball.
I can't believe you're calling TJ Otzelberger and his schmedium polos not sexy. That's unbelievable. I'm going to text him and let him know.
You got to roll your sleeves up, and he'd be fine with that too. He'd say, I don't want to be called that. You got to roll your sleeves up with this next search and stop trying to win the press conferences. You got to win games. And I don't care how much money you have. There are also some really good coaches who right now are struggling because them and their staff simply missed on some players. But they still have culture. There's some great teams in college basketball this year. They're looking at some players and they're like, maybe we should have taken that guy over the other. And Rob and Terrence, you know who I'm talking about. But you can't change the past. It's like a Dennis Gates. I saw associate head coach C.Y. Young in Vegas in December, and I said, what happened? What changed? He goes, you know what, man? He goes, I'm not trying to talk around it. He goes, we swung and missed. He goes, we had to get back in the lab and really meet and talk about what we were looking for in a roster. When you look at Indiana, they did bring in talent, but it's on the coach and the staff, not just to find the fit, to will the fit out of the pieces to make a team. I watched this team practice in the preseason. I sensed talent. I didn't sense all the pieces fitting a puzzle. You've got to will that out of these pieces. You're paying them a lot of money. And it's different to coach nowadays. But for the majority of guys who have been in the NBA, to make that transition to college is very difficult, and it's even harder now with the money component and with trying to navigate through it. This is a dark day for the Hoosiers. I agree with Terrence. It's been a long while since the cachet of Indiana, the brand of Indiana, has had results that even come close to that aura that we're talking about. You've got to make a hire that doesn't follow the aura piece to get that aura back. You got to be willing to get a guy who you see the potential in and are buying that piece of it, rather than just telling your fans, we went out and we got this name that everybody identifies with. If that could be the right choice, but I think it's got to be the other way around for this program to truly get it right. Because what happened last night should never happen. There's people rolling in their graves that played and coached in Indiana right now thinking about last night. That is unacceptable and inexcusable. And it's not the first time it's happened. I'm willing to give a pass for Louisville. That last night on your home floor, have some respect, man, for yourselves.
Yeah. All right, so you mentioned it. It's got to be a guy who might not win the press conference. It's got to be a guy. Let's do the unsexiest hires that could possibly do a great job at Indiana. Who would you like? Who would that be? I'm just curious because the way you said that, I have some ideas,
I do too.
And one of them, guys, is at my alma mater, and it wouldn't be sexy, but he would do a great job there.
Okay, so I don't disagree. I also don't know if he could get that job.
Well, no, hold on. If you look at the past few years, they make another run in the tournament. I don't know if he could get that job. That's the problem with the thinking at Indiana.
That's the problem. Yes. Exactly.
How old is he now? How old is Brad now?
Ben McCollum could, but
that's who I was going to go with Ben McCollum. Hold on, I want to circle back on Brunell real quick. How old is he? 56.
So he's got, and he'll never do anything but coach. He keeps saying, "I'm too old for this shit." He'll coach till he's in the 6 feet deep. He's 56.
I just look.
He can't get the job because the name isn't sexy enough. But he just made an Elite Eight 2 years ago. They made a Sweet 16. The playing field is leveled. You see the kind of player he's getting now and how they're competing consistently. Beat Kentucky at home, and like I would steer more towards Ben McCollum too.
Yes,
but the question I'm asking is like, you could go a lot of different directions. Quit pushing Scott Drew. Like, stop. Jeffrey Goodman, stop pushing Scott Drew.
He's not going to take it.
He wouldn't leave if Jesus himself asked him to. Like, he wouldn't leave. So, like, he's staying at Baylor. Stop pushing Scott. Bruce isn't going anywhere. He's got a nice place down there in Auburn. He's not going anywhere. Stop pushing those two names. Like, I think McCollum is a guy you have to look at, but I also think, like, McCollum fits Virginia incredibly well.
Mm-hmm.
Like, who are the guys outside of Ben McCollum that you think makes sense?
Does
Chris Beard make sense? Are you willing to do that?
I don't think that they can hire Chris Beard for obvious reasons. Although Chris Beard would be the absolute.
He's been completely cleared of all.
Okay, come on, why?
Why?
I mean,
I just thought. Well,
why wouldn't he? Why wouldn't he? He's a Bob Knight guy.
No, I know. Look,
Ole Miss. You think he's having a fun time in Oxford?
I think he does.
They had Bob Knight coaching their team.
I got two names for you guys.
Okay, you're probably right, Rob. Let's just go ahead and say it because you've disagreed with everything we've said. So go ahead. You got it, Rob.
I got two names. So Ben McCollum would probably be one of the first names on my list.
Yeah, we've already said that.
Jared Calhoun at Utah State. Guy's got some Midwest roots, right? He's doing a really good job at Utah State right now. Creative offensively. And the other guy, it's a little bit more off the radar. And I honestly don't even know if he would fit there because of how he kind of has been brought up in the basketball world. But Bucky McMillan, if you're going to play Bucky ball, right?
Bad fit.
Why?
Culturally, bad fit. He's not. He is a Southeast dude. He needs to be in the Southeast. I'm just telling you. It's about it. He won't get along. He won't get along there. I've been around guys like Bucky my entire life. Don't put him in Indiana where it's windy as hell and minus 30. It's not going to work.
Saying Brad takes Indiana and Bucky to Clemson.
I'm not saying no. But I'm just curious, like the other guys. Bucky McMillan won't fit up there. Bucky. I could see something. Bucky at Florida State. I could see that.
Wait a minute.
They're going to go with a different. They're going to go with a different mid-major coach that's winning a lot of games at Florida State. If I was going to make that decision for them,
that's right. But Miami's going to have to come back. Miami's going to have to fight for that same guy. Go ahead, Fanta.
Kentucky wins, you lose. Are you dumb or stupid? You just said Shaka is struggling at Marquette. He struggled at Texas too. Struggling at Marquette. They're one of the best programs in the country.
Who the hell said that?
They're off to their best start in the Big East since 2008-09. Indiana should get on their knees and beg for Shaka Smart. He ain't taking it. He's never leaving Marquette.
And he shouldn't take it. He shouldn't take it.
He tried a job like that. It ain't happening. Marquette's a better program than Indiana. Ooh. Are you shocked? Ooh, their operating budget's just as good. So don't talk to me about Shaka Smart struggling. Get out of here with that trash.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah. Your take on Bucky is interesting.
It's not going to be Scott Drew.
It's not Scott Drew. It's not going to be one of those big names. Scott Drew, Bruce Pearl, Chris Beard, those are going to be easy names to plug, but it's not going to be one of those guys. Like Scott said no to Kentucky and Louisville last year because he wants to be in Baylor and his family doesn't want to be that fishbowl be the head coach of one of those basketball programs. It's just not what it is. I do want to provide.
Jeff loves him, so like he's helping him out with contract extensions. He's not going anywhere.
That
What do we
might be
do?
What
what
about
it is.
Chris Jans? What about Chris Jans?
I actually don't hate it. I think you need to do a little bit more at Mississippi. Like keep winning at the level you've been winning so far, and that might actually be something that would make sense. He is a hell of a coach, man, and he wants to shoot threes and he wants to space the floor. And when you're at Indiana and you can get guys that can shoot, like just think about the guys that Indiana has missed on. Like, what if you had Liam McNeely there right now? You think that would change some things?
Yeah.
Put Liam McNeely next to Mackenzie and Mbako. Like, what if he was there? That changes some things, right? I want to provide a little context here, and then we can kind of move on to SEC stuff. I keep seeing Micah Shrewsbury in the chat. He's a hell of a coach. I think you got to win more at Notre Dame before you get the Indiana. Like if you're sitting there,
he's a year too late. He's a couple years too late.
Yep.
He could have gotten it out of Penn State. I think. I don't think he's getting it out of.
Yeah. The other interesting thing is like
maybe Signetti can get more money to coach basketball.
So Woodson's has 2 years guaranteed at $4 million a year. His buyout is $8 million. The contract stipulates it could be spread out over the next 8 years for $1 million a year.
That's nothing, relatively speaking, to what they're willing to pay up there.
Yeah, they paid Archie Miller a lump sum $10 million to go out and
shit, fire me.
Yeah, right. I have no problem not working for that much money. And this comes directly from Goodman is that the guy that made the hire last time, it was not their AD, Scott Dolson. Scott Dolson was the guy that did go out and find Kurt Signetti and decide to make that hire. So I will be interested to see if a change does get made, who they will go after, because it's Indiana, man. They haven't been Indiana in a long time, but
we got to wait a minute.
Get back there.
Wait, we got to address the elephant in the room. Wait,
that's the third time you've said that today.
Say that about Dolson. What'd you say about the football program? The last hire?
So he did not. Dolson hiring Mike Woodson was not a Dolson decision. That came from other people with influence within the athletic department. Dolson was the guy that hired Signetti. That was his decision. That's
what about Dusty May? What about Dusty May?
He said no to Louisville because he doesn't want to he doesn't want to be a coach at a program where basketball is like front and center. He doesn't want to live in a fishbowl. That's part of why he's at Michigan instead of Louisville right now. So I don't know if let's say if Woodson, they would have made a move on Woodson.
He's getting paid fishbowl money.
Yeah, but if they made a move on Woodson last year, I don't know.
You're not a fishbowl. You can pay $5 million.
If you can get
people just be at this point, Doster. People they're just talking. People just out here just flapping lips.
Well, no,
all the hell is going on. They're just talking. That's ridiculous. I don't want to live in fishbowl. I'm only the head coach of Michigan. They're just talking.
Yeah, well, what I'm saying is if you can do all the stuff that
took 4 losses, all of a sudden he's in a fishbowl getting paid $5 million a year.
Yeah, all I'm saying is that that's part of why Dusty May right now is not at Louisville and why he is at Michigan. And if that opportunity came, like obviously he is an Indiana alum, so maybe that would have had a little bit more pull from him. But I don't think that it's a guarantee that he would have ended up being the head coach at Indiana had that job been open last year as he was looking.
It's still a big time job, though. Michigan's a big time job. Like, yeah, you're not Michigan football, but you're very much in the spotlight. I don't know, guys. So I don't think Dusty's going to go because I think Michigan gave him a shot. He owes it back to Michigan, but he's got the Indiana roots. They could throw a boatload at him. I also don't know if I'd want the Indiana job if I'm Dusty. It's going to come with a shoot ton of expectations. You've got Michigan going. I think Michigan's top 15 team in the country. Might be a hot take.
I think Michigan. This may or may not be a hot take. I think they're Final Four good. I think Michigan's Final Four good.
They could
stop turning the damn ball over.
I agree with that. We had one. This now might be a weekly topic because of how much attraction it's got, and I think our numbers are outstanding right now from what I can tell. Noah says, "What about Matt Painter?"
That would be awesome if they hired him. That would be so funny.
What if they just called him? No, what if they called? Could you imagine Painter answering the phone being like, "Do you guys really want to end the world? Like, do you really?" It's a no.
It would almost be as bad as going from Providence to Georgetown, both as a
Almost
coach and a
be
player.
worse. Oh, it'd be worse. It'd be worse.
Both as a coach and a player.
Yeah. The Purdue fans.
Got a lot of Todd Goldens in here.
I would not hate that. There's a couple things that have to finish playing out for that to be able to be something that is possible. But
I think Chris Beard could be a real threat here.
If Chris Beard went to Indiana, Chris Beard would win national championships.
I agree.
Absolutely 100%. Chris Beard would win national championships at Indiana. I feel comfortable saying. I think he went to a national championship game at Texas Tech. I think that he can do at Ole Miss what Bruce Pearl has done at Auburn. I think if he's there for 4 or 5 years, Ole Miss will be consistently a top 5 team, top 10 team in America, competing for SEC championships every single season and have one of the best home courts in the sport of college basketball. I think that he is so good at building up. We went down there for a Texas game and they had 12,000 people in Texas's in their home game on the opening night of the season, and they were going absolutely bonkers down there. Fanny, you were there for a game that you were there for the Creighton game, right? Like he had that thing in like a year and a half rolling. He'd win a national championship at Indiana. I feel very comfortable saying that. Listen, we got to get to the SEC stuff. We got to get to the all hell breaking loose in that conference last night. 2 top 5 teams lose at home. Kentucky gets one of their most impressive wins of the season, and Arkansas is 0-4 in the SEC. That is coming up after this. If you haven't heard by now, we have partnered with BetMGM for the season. We'll be using BetMGM lines to make all of our picks, and we'll have special offers for the listeners and the viewers. Download the BetMGM app and sign up using the bonus code FIELD. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game, and you'll receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets. Go download the BetMGM app and use the code. I love the line, man. I absolutely love the line. All right, let's break down the. You hate when I do that.
This was going so well. Really
was. All right, let's talk about the top of the SEC because it went absolutely bonkers last night. Ole Miss wins at Alabama. Kentucky beats Texas A&M. Auburn beats Mississippi State. Missouri goes into Florida and beats the Tigers. T.O., I'll start with you on this. Ole Miss on the road. Just Malik Gia had 21-19. They beat up physically on Auburn. They ran them off the 3-point line. They forced, Alabama. They forced 21 turnovers. They funneled them into the paint. The no middle defense was really effective. They had more size and length and athleticism at the rim. Is this Ole Miss team? They're sitting here 15-2, first place in the SEC, 4-0. Like, is this legitimately a team that's good enough to be able to make a Final Four, to be able to actually compete for an SEC championship? How we know they're good. Just how good do you think that this group is?
This Ole Miss team, if Malik Dia is as good as he's been over the last 3 games, you're absolutely right. They can make a Final Four. Absolutely right. Over his last 3 games, 23 points, 19 boards, 19 and 7, and then 21 and 8. If they have that kind of presence along with that backcourt, I'm telling you, these guys are really good. And they scout as well as anybody. Chris Beard scouts as well as anybody. They're going to be that good. Malik Dia getting comfortable. It's really interesting. He only scored in double figures twice up until the last 3 games. And then all of a sudden, something's unlocked with him. And he was a really good player at Belmont. But, like, is it confidence from Beard? What is it? I don't know. But his effectiveness, he got 4 offensive boards, 15 defensive against Alabama. That means they're finishing possessions. And whenever you play Alabama, you got to finish possessions. Malik Dia, if he's this guy, scary. Ole Miss is scary. Second year Beard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, second year Beard. You know what? The formula to beat Alabama, if you're going to, and not many will, you got to do 2 things. Number one, you got to hold them under 30% from 3. You have to lock them down on the perimeter. You can't get beat significantly beyond the arc. Now, what impressed me the most is Ole Miss went 6 of 21 from 3 and won this game by double digits. It's not like they had this otherworldly shooting performance. The other thing is you got to rebound the basketball. You can't give, Alabama over the weekend They beat Texas A&M. And remember the sequence where Sears has 3 looks at a 3, makes the third one? It's because they kept rebounding the basketball.
Of course.
Ole Miss rebounded. Now they got out rebounded, but Dia's the man. I mean, Terrence, I think it's one of the best individual performances we've seen by somebody this season. Alabama brought Cliff Amore in to fill the physicality void. He's not fully healthy right now and only played 13 minutes. But Dia had a big-time game. He was phenomenal in this game. Sean Padula's calm, cool, and collected. They are a team that has experience, length, versatility. So they do play some iso ball because of the individual talents that they have. That's a hell of a win. That's a hell of a win for Ole Miss. Yeah, they can win the SEC regular season crown. In fact, the more I was looking at it, I mean, if you can win in Tuscaloosa, you put the rest of the league on notice. And if I could teleport myself anywhere Saturday and come right back home, I would go to Stark Vegas to watch Ole Miss and Miss State play. I think that building is going to be shaking Saturday night when the Rebels go there.
Yeah, the one thing I'll say about Ole Miss, T.O., you kind of touched on it with the game plan, right? Mark Adams was hired by Chris Beard in the offseason, and they run that kind of no-middle defense. It's not as drastic as it was when they were at Texas Tech, but they still run you off the three-point line. They weak you on all ball screens. They don't let you get back to the middle. If you're on one side, they keep you on one side, and they funnel you into the rim and into the basket. And I just thought Malik Dia specifically – but they have size in and around the rim, and they make it really difficult for you to finish there. And that's kind of what Alabama does, right? Like, I think that this was a matchup that was also beneficial for Ole Miss because Alabama really only has one like playmaker in their backcourt, and they're not as maybe big and physical as I thought they were heading into this game. And I just think that it worked out well with this matchup, and they made they got some stops, and Alabama missed some shots and turned some balls over. So are you worried at all about Alabama, or is this just kind of, something that will happen from time to time in the SEC? Because that's kind of where I'm at. Like, everyone's going to lose games in this conference. There's 7 teams that are good enough to be able to make a deep run in the tournament. You're going to lose some games.
This is where the 3-point shooting helps. They haven't shot great percentages, and it's almost like Fanta referred to that possession with Mark Sears shooting 3 in a possession. You're not going to get that every time. And whenever you're held to only 4 offensive rebounds, you got to shoot the ball better, and that one can be tough. So am I worried about Alabama? No, I'm not doing that yet. However, eventually you would think the stats will correct themselves and then eventually shoot the ball well. It just hasn't happened. That's what scares me more than anything.
Yep. Fana, any concerns about Alabama?
No, I'm not concerned about Alabama. I still think they're an incredibly dangerous team that right now, I think they are relying on perimeter shooting, and Dia's performance is definitely an eyebrow raiser for sure. But LeBaron Philon was 0 for 8. Sometimes it's just not your night. And Chris Youngblood shot 3 for 10. Youngblood and Philon can't go 3 for 18. I don't see that happening in another game this season. But Amore only playing 13 minutes, guys. Like, Big Cliff's got to play a role. When we did our resolution show, I said, you brought him in, you paid him. Like, I'll be honest, I don't think for what they paid, has he been worth it?
I would say yes, because he has provided that anchor, but he has not had the impact that some other big guys have had. Yes, if that makes sense.
Great point.
Like, there's probably, when you're looking at it now, there's probably guys that could have done the same job for cheaper, but I don't think that means that the impact he's provided. 'Cause, like, look, last year they were sub 100 defensively on KenPom. This year they're number 32, right? Like, he's got a bad ankle, and they had a rough game against a really good Ole Miss team. I kind of think it is like, this is the SEC this year. There's 6 top 10 teams in that. What if I said no?
Oh, that's okay. We can go to whatever. I would just say this. I do wonder if the SEC tournament gets diminished at all for some teams who are just want the break.
I'm not sure that's how that part of the country functions.
Yeah, I don't know.
No.
Maybe we'll see. I think there are teams that are going to take losses early. Like that tournament is going to be bonkers because if you are like, let's just say you're the 2 seed and let's just say you're Alabama, right? And you're kind of locked into like a 2-3 seed line somewhere, and you're out there playing, and your first round game, you get a team like I don't know, like a Texas who's right there on the bubble, and Trey Johnson goes absolutely nuts, and it's one of those nights where Tremont Mark is making shots, right? Like you have teams that are going to be in the bottom half of that league that could beat anybody on any given night. So I think there's going to be fireworks in that conference tournament. I want to pivot to Kentucky here because T.O. and Fan,
can we talk about Arkansas?
We talked about. Go ahead. You want to talk about Arkansas?
I kind of wonder what your guys' thoughts are on Arkansas. Because a lot of people in the chat right now are asking about Arkansas and Calipari, and everybody's mad at the world. And half the Kentucky fans are saying, told you so. Arkansas fans are like, give him time. What do you think?
I think it's a complete disaster. I think that the Tyson Chicken folks are already regretting making that decision. I think they're sitting here being like, we sunk like $45-50 million between coaching contracts and NIL money guaranteed into a guy that is using this as an opportunity to make his retirement nest egg, right? Like I just, it was never going to work. It was obvious it was never going to work. It was clear to anybody that has any kind of basketball sense that the game has passed Coach Cal by. He's not making adjustments. He's not doing his tweaks. He can't play a modern style of offense. He doesn't have the guy that completely revamped their offense last year is gone. John Welch. He's not with the Arkansas program anymore. There's a little bit of a debate about whether or not that was something where he decided to leave or he was asked to leave or told you're not coming with me to Arkansas, but he's not with that program anymore. And it's a mess. It's not going to work. I think if you look at the way they built this roster, you have 3 ball dominant guards that you're kind of building everything around, and that ain't going to work. You don't have players on the team that work without the ball. You got 5 men that aren't great defensively, like Big Z. The talent is there, right? Adut Thoreau has been awesome this season, right? Boogie Flan's going to be a first-round pick. DJ Wagner is DJ Wagner. We saw what Nelly Davis could do last year. Jonas Adu is as good of a defensive and rebounding 5-man as you're going to find. Like, it's not a lack of talent. It's not a lack of ability. The guy can't coach anymore, and I don't think he cares about coaching anymore, right? Like, it wasn't going to work. It was never going to work. It hasn't worked, and I don't think anybody fans that could have expected anything different than what we've seen from Arkansas so far this season. End rant.
Look, this is when he left for Arkansas, we said this could end up really working out for Kentucky. Then Kentucky hires Mark Pope, and it's met with some people saying he's one of their own. This is amazing. This could be really cool. And the other half of people were like, what's he actually done? I don't see it. You know, what can he – look, Mitch Barnhart sleeps so much easier at night knowing he doesn't have to put up with Cal. What made you think a guy who hasn't changed in over half a decade was going to change because he changed where he lives and where he works? You know, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. Cal's staff holds him back. It holds him back because he's got nobody telling him what he needs to do. And this is not working out. It's not good. In fact, it's very, very bad. I mean, I don't think I don't think it could be off to a worse start. They're 0-4 in the league. They're in danger of missing the tournament. You lose to LSU, who's not particularly good. And
they blew a double-digit lead to LSU.
Yeah.
Like, they were up by 11 in the second half and melted.
John L. Davis, I'm amazed. He is a shell of himself. What on earth happened to John L. Davis? And Fland, as much as he's got talent, he took 17 shots last night to get to 19 points. They're not really efficient. Defensively, they're average at best.
They got no one. Like, the problem is they don't have a guy that is going to put them in a situation to be better than to make it easier on them, right? Like, they don't have the floor spacing you need. They don't have the shooters you need. They don't have guys that can be complementary pieces. They got a guy that wants to be a star point guard. They got a guy that thinks he's a star point guard in DJ. They got another guy who wishes he was a star point guard in Nelly. You got a dude Thoreau who's like a great complementary option if he's like the guy that kind of have his balls in his hands. He's not really a shooter, right? They don't have guys that there's no Jonas Adu is not an offensive threat. Big Z is a complete train wreck defensively. The pieces just don't fit. You don't have a guy that can go out there and figure out how to do it. You're 0-4 right now in the SEC. Now you got to go on the road to a Missouri team that just went into Gainesville and beat up on Florida. And then, oh, by the way, you get Georgia at home, who's now a top 25 team. Like, we could be looking at a real situation where Arkansas doesn't have a win in the SEC going to Rupp Arena to play Kentucky on February 1st. Can you imagine what happens? Seriously, T.O., what happens if John Calipari comes back to Rupp Arena and leaves with an 0-8 record in the SEC? Does he show up for the post-game press conference? Does he show up for the game? Is he there? And I feel like I'm piling on Cal a lot here, but like this, and everyone saw it coming. This hasn't really been all that much of a surprise.
Yeah, no, I think you guys nailed it. I was just kind of curious what you thought.
You teed us up for that. You teed us up for that. You knew what you were doing. Look at his face. You knew exactly what you were doing. Man.
Are you afraid?
Afraid of what?
Are you afraid to say that it's not the
No,
answer?
it hasn't gone well. It hasn't gone well. And I want to attribute it to this. He's run the same stuff forever. They looked a little bit better last year, but they had Reed Shepherd, who ended up being number 3 in the draft as a guard. And down draft, sure, whatever. Went 3rd.
Don't forget Dilly
Keep
Dilly.
in mind, when Cal took Kentucky, the SEC was not what the SEC is. This was the SEC where it's far secondary. Hold on, John. Let me finish. I didn't make those faces when you were talking.
I actually agree with this.
They were not the same SEC. It was a down league. You got football. You've got all this stuff that was taking the front seat. They were first class. Basketball was in the back. So they weren't getting the same level of player, although the level of player were going to the ACC. They were going to the Big East. Now, money has changed the game. The investment's been in basketball. All the other teams have just as much talent as now Arkansas, then Kentucky. The talent discrepancy is not what it was back when he was dominating college basketball. Now it's even, which is why you see a lot of these places now that aren't traditional basketball powers. They've had really good coaches. They just haven't had those level of players. And now playing field's evening. And I think Calipari is the perfect example of that.
Yep. And I will also say that in years past, Coach Cal would have gotten Darren Peterson, Cameron Boozer, and AJ DeBonsa to all go to Kentucky. And now he's getting, like, all due respect, Boogie Flynn, Billy Richmond, and Carter Knox. All are good players. That's not like getting Darren Peterson, AJ DeBonsa, and Cameron Boozer all to come in the same class.
I agree with you.
Can I ask you guys? Yeah. Can I?
Somebody just said in the chat, like, Cal never dominated college basketball. Are you out of your flipping mind?
What are we talking about? He went to like 5 Final Fours in 8 years.
Dominated college.
The new time for this pod is Wednesday at 12:45 because for whatever reason we got some hooligans on their lunch breaks.
You're damn right. Bring your hooliganism over here.
They are fired up.
I didn't know that the 1 o'clock hour on Wednesdays in the year of our Lord 2025 was the weed smoking hour, but it apparently is for our viewers. So
they're fired up. I want to ask you guys about Kentucky before we kind of put a bow on this thing because we talked about it. We talked about it, T.O., and I watched every possession of this game. So I'm going to put something out there, and I want you guys to kind of react to what I'm saying. We had, I will say,
is Cal one and done? Such a good comment. No, he's not. He's not. But really funny. Well done, Mike.
We had very real questions about Kentucky's ability to defend after their win on Saturday against Mississippi State, right? You gave up 90 points to Mississippi State. They gave up 100 to Florida. And we've seen them on the nights where the shots weren't going down, struggle with an okay Ohio State team, struggle with a good but should be beatable Georgia team on the road. I thought Tuesday's performance was the best defensive performance that we've seen out of a Kentucky team this season, considering the opponent that they played. I know that Wade Taylor wasn't there. Zurich Phelps can do all of the stuff that Wade Taylor can do. I think that they are just as good with him as their lone guard as with Wade Taylor on the floor as well. Kentucky won, holding Texas A&M to 39% shooting from the floor, 7 for 30 from three. And the most important thing to me is they held the nation's best offensive rebounding team, who gets 43% of their own misses, to a 28.2% offensive rebounding percentage, 11 offensive rebounds on 39 missed shots. I think we saw last night what Kentucky can be with their ceiling defensively. I thought that we saw them starting to figure some things out on that end of the floor. And I think that they showed me, T.O. and Fan, I want your take on this too. Both of you guys respond. They showed me that they can win games with their defense if they needed to, and they showed a level of toughness and physicality I didn't think that they had. And I'll be frank, it kind of changed what I can think this program can be. There's still a level of susceptibility there, but I'm buying them more after that performance last night, seeing them win with their defense, than I was on Saturday.
Certainly a step. I mean, it's a great win for them because of how they did it. And the defense continuing to climb is very important. You know, it's needed. It's also a matter of, like, I think that talking with the staff a little bit last summer when I was doing that TBT, and I got to spend some time with some of the Kentucky staff because I was over in Lexington. They said, you know, Jackson Robinson can be our guy. He can go and be that type of guy. So early in the season, that wasn't the case. And he had 22 points last night. He knocks down 5 threes. You know, they won it differently. Amari Williams, to me, is invaluable defensively. You know, and on the glass, 12 rebounds, 23 minutes. He helps them on both ends of the floor. But defensively, like, I think that's what was interesting, guys. You knew that Lamont Butler was capable of defending. Look where he played before. Otego Awe's got some toughness in him. This team, it's not like they have a bunch of poor defenders. Just a matter of maybe tweaking some things, maybe understanding, like, we have to prioritize this to win a national championship. So it's a really nice step. It does bear noting Texas A&M is still without Wade Taylor, so they're not the same team without him. But regardless, Kentucky's 14-3. The Mark Pope era couldn't be off to a better start, and they're adapting in season. I love that. It's why Kentucky can make a Final Four. If that defense travels, there's nobody Kentucky can't beat.
Come on, man. Texas A&M was missing Wade Taylor IV. They had one guy to focus on. Texas A&M, I mean, they got some players. They were missing Wade Taylor IV.
Oh, you're a hater, man.
I'm going to hate a little bit because I was talking shit about Kentucky's defense. I'm not jumping off that right now. I'm not going to do it.
I'll come down there and fight.
Well, you bring your pretty ass on down here, son. We can do it. We'll put it on 1 o'clock on a Wednesday. That's when we'll do it. 1 o'clock on a Wednesday. Bring your happy ass down here to South Carolina. Hey,
it's pretty.
Huh?
It's well fed, Mike. Go ahead.
All right. So, no, look, the doubt, it was never a doubt.
Look what the chat did this. This show was, we were all friends.
Best
we
show
were
of the
happy
year.
go
lucky. It was nothing but positivity. The chat, one question about whether or not T.O. and Phantom were fighting, and all.
Hell, I'm about to fight Rob if he doesn't let me finish the damn sentence. Shit. We're falling apart at the seams. We're like an old baseball.
Best show of the year.
All right, so
Best show of the year. 1,000 live viewers.
hey, how about that? Now, here's the thing. It slowed to a crawl. What was there? 50? How many something free throws? Slows to a crawl. That means they're scoring. Kentucky gets back, gets to set their defense, and Lamont Butler's a beast if you find somebody he can guard. He's the best. He was the best defender in the Mountain West Conference by a country mile last year. Goes to Kentucky. He's been good this year defending. It's just them as a team collectively haven't been. Texas A&M relies on Zurich Phelps to score a lot in one-on-one situations. Texas A&M relies on their offensive toughness and offensive rebounding and all those things. They got stops yesterday, but they were also missing Texas A&M was also missing Wade Taylor IV. I'm not backing down. I'm not backing down from anything. I still think Kentucky needs to defend with consistency, and we'll see how it continues to go. If they keep doing this and keep teams in the 60s, fine. I'm all in. I've been all in anyway. I don't know why I'm defending anything. Other teams were scoring 90 points. They were scoring 100. I'm not fighting anybody. I was right to begin with. You guys are welcome, world. You guys are welcome.
Well,
we live in a world where Terrence Oglesby, a man who was known, who's infamous for his inability to want to play defense, is here criticizing teams and saying the number 2 offense in America is not good enough because they don't play enough defense. What has this world come to, T.O.? This feels like there's a full circle thing.
Look, they've shown that they can do it. I'm not taking away from that. They've shown they can do it, but do it with consistency. Let's see it.
No, I agree. They need this. Do this on Saturday against Alabama, and we'll have a real conversation.
God, what a great game that's going to be. I wonder who's on that game.
That's going to be awesome. Yeah, that's going to be awesome.
Game.
Yeah. Wow. All right. Look, we've been here for an hour.
What?
We've been here for an hour. And if you want to, I don't want to dive too deep into, I don't want to keep you guys for too long. So if you want to hear a long conversation about the Missouri's win at Florida, we talked about it last night on the Field of 68 After Dark. There's clips up on the YouTube channel.
Let him go. Let him go.
15 seconds. T.O. knows this. Guys, I had Florida fans that wanted me dead Sunday night when I ranked them 6th and I ranked Tennessee 5th. Good night, Gainesville. Okay. Because you know what? I felt like, as bad as it was, and I understand why Florida was ranked ahead of Tennessee this week. I get it. I promise you I didn't do it for clicks. I just felt bad about like totally removing Tennessee from the top 5.
Yeah.
Just wiping them out. Even though the top of the country is really damn good. That last night for me kind of showed why I wasn't totally, utterly sold on Florida quite yet. Now, Caleb Grill had a great game.
Yep.
Terrific win for Coach Gates. But the Gators, they have some flawed areas. Defensively, they really struggled against Missouri. Missouri just shredded their defense. And then, when certain shots didn't fall, they're still really talented. But, I think Alabama, Auburn, I'll be curious to see what happens when Tennessee and Florida play again. But it's the point is the SEC is oh man, the last comment. Holy hell, that's something else there. That last comment. I'm not going to say it. You can all read it. Careful, Fanta, and you can read the end. My God, I don't want any of those photos. You know what? The SEC is just a juggernaut. It really is. The SEC is the best conference in the country. So you're going to get some random results. You are. You're going to get some random results. And that's why the league's going to get 13 bits.
Somebody just said the DTF.
DTF stands for Down to Fight for TO. You see that? 2 things real quick. We do have some breaking news. Iowa State will be without Milan Momcilovic tonight against Kansas. He has a non-dominant hand injury, and he will be out for 5 to 6 weeks, according to Chris Williams, who covers is he Cyclone Fanatic? I think that's what the Cyclone Fanatic. So big blow, 12-point per game score, shoots 48% from 3. They'll talk about that much more on After Dark tonight. And I want to apologize to Auburn fans. I promise you guys, we had it in the rundown. I promise you, I have notes. I promise you, we wanted to talk about them. We ended up spending 30 minutes on Mike Woodson instead because that conversation got going. Again, we talked for 15 minutes about Auburn beating Mississippi State last night on After Dark. Fanta and T.O. were not on it. I was on it with Randolph and CJ. I thought it was at least a fun conversation. Chad Baker-Mazara was awesome last night, and Auburn is still the number 1 team in America. So I'm sorry we did not get to that win. Tuesday was an insane day in the sport of college basketball.
Auburn's still a top 5 team, okay? Everybody relax.
They're more than a top
5 team. Everybody relax.
Janai Broom's a system quarterback, man. That's what it is. Janai Broom is nothing but a system quarterback.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that's crazy. I'm sorry, Janai. I didn't mean it. I was just saying it. I didn't mean it, Janai. Listen, guys, this has been fun. Always enjoy getting on here, and I always enjoy getting yelled at by the 2 of you about different things. But listen, Fandom will be on After Dark tonight, so jump in the chat tonight, 11 o'clock, to make sure to yell at him about whatever you're yelling at us about. So
Big show.
until next week, big show, fun show. Great show. Always good to catch up with you guys. This has been the DTF podcast. Now that the college basketball season is in full swing, you need to make sure that you have access to the best betting tool on the market, the Rhythm app. Spelled RITHMM, is a data-backed app that uses AI and analytics to identify inefficiencies in betting lines and the player prop market that will allow you, the user, to profit. You can create customized, analytics-driven betting models tailored to your personal preferences as a bettor. Users have access to up-to-the-second against-the-spread data. And if you're like me and you understand pictures better than numbers on a screen, Rhythm's internal trend analysis provides you with the kind of graphs that will allow you to evaluate past results and project future performance in a visual way. Every Division I college basketball team is included in the Rhythm's metrics. Free subscribers to the Field of 68 Daily will get 25% off for a Rhythm subscription. Use the